I believe it's safe to say that the whole Fight for 15 movement was a big scam. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this Jason's Deli location somewhere, I believe, in Florida. If I'm wrong about the location, let me know in the comments. But they put out this sign with a bunch of wages from 9 to 15, and it have a list of qualifications for each wage. You know, entry level, a little bit above, and they have quite colorful descriptions for each one. But before I get into it, I got to back up and explain what's happening. Now, the idea of a minimum wage is a hot button issue depending upon the time when it's being discussed. Right around election time is really hot. Fight for 15. Everyone needs a living wage. And to pause on that for a moment, what is a living wage? How much does a living wage pay? You see, I make a certain amount of money, but what are my expenses? It's just me and my wife and that's it. I don't have any kids. I don't have debt really. So what are my expenses? It could be a guy living right next door, my same age with a wife as well, but he might have 1,000 kids, a bunch of different baby mamas, student loan debt, credit card debt. He might have been locked up. You paying court fines, restitution. He has a different life than I do. He has different expenses than I do. So a quote unquote living wage for him is going to be different because he has different expenses, a different life. So when someone says, oh, if you work 40 hours a week, you need to get a living wage. First of all, if you're working on a low wage job, you're not going to get 40 hours. That's the first dog whistle. But beyond that, I mean, who's to say that? It doesn't really matter how long you work or whatever. It's all about what you bring to the table. What are your skills? What can you do? What can you bring to society that is worth the kind of cash that you want per hour or for a salary or whatever the case may be? Now, let's get into this particular list. And I think that this was enough to get this particular Jason's Deli like flooded with 1-star reviews on Google. It was crazy. Unnecessary because this list, although it may hurt some feelings, is right on point. So here we go. Now you see the very top. I'm not going to show you who tweeted this, but it says, "Started to the deli in town. This really didn't sit right with me." And you see it says, "Now hiring all positions." Underneath that, I probably wouldn't say that myself, where it says minimum wage equals mediocre person. I think maybe that's true to a certain extent, but also when you're a young person, that's one thing people don't talk about too much. When you're a young person, you need to get a minimum wage job or a low paid job because you're trying to get your foot into the door of experience to be able to build from there. So you may not necessarily be mediocre. You may be an exceptional young person, but you are a young person. You don't have experience. You don't have these skills, yet you're trying to develop it. But let's see the $9 an hour description. First job, willing to learn. And that's where I was back in the day when I was, 16, working for, I think my first job was $6.50 an hour or $6.25, right around then. It's my first job, working at Sam's Club. Then I worked at a place called Garden Ridge. And then I worked at Old Country Buffet from like 17 to 21. So like in the high school and when I was in college as well. I'm getting skills. Learning how to work in an environment, being social with people that you work with. I'm learning these things as a young man. So I'm getting paid a low amount of money. $10 an hour, some experience, efficient. Eventually, I got a raise to $8 an hour when I was working at Old Country. I started at $6.25 and made a raise to $8. I wasn't really trying to expand. Like they were trying to get me on the cook line. I was just content washing dishes because I'm in college and I knew that I would not be here for long. That's one thing I want to say right now as I'm talking about the minimum wage. This is not meant to be a career. This is meant to be a starting job for young people. Or if you may be disabled or something like that, you may not be able to do certain things because of a disability. You can work at this job. Or if you having a rough time, whatever the case, you need to make some extra money. It's for that. It's not meant to be a career. It's meant to be for young people and temporary. But some experience efficient. Okay, you are worth a little bit more. All right. Your efficiency makes you worth the $10 an hour, $11 an hour, reliable multitasker. So now you're getting better. Now you're building your skills. Therefore, you're able to be worth more than the $9 or the $10. And the whole thing about worth, some may get offended, some may get butthurt and triggered about that. Are you trying to assign people's worth? That's ridiculous. You're a bigot. It's not even about that. It's about, when you're talking about wages, there must be a reason why someone is paid a particular thing. Okay. If you have two people going for the same job, one has zero experience, they're going to need to be trained, and they might even have a little bit of a background, some criminal stuff going on. They might have been in jail before, versus a guy who's already had experience, he has a resume, recommendations. Everybody says he's a great person for the job. If they are both willing to work and you don't see any kind of, you don't have any expectation of a high turnover on either one, you go to the one that has a better experience, the recommendations. It just makes more sense. And if they want to negotiate higher pay, then they're able to get it more than the guy who has no experience and has already been locked up. It's just a logical thing. You're able to get a more efficient person who requires less training. He'll be able to make you more money. Therefore, you pay him more money if you're able to do so through your business model. But we keep on going. $12 an hour, better than most, brings zero drama, works like two people. Correct. If you're able to bring that really hard work and your output is the near equivalent or equivalent of at least two people, it makes sense. Rather than hiring two people and paying them $10, I can hire one person for $12. It just makes financial sense, right? I don't have to worry about them bringing any kind of craziness to the workplace. Baby mama not coming to the job, knocking over glass tables and stuff like that, throwing stuff, knocking over all the hot links and the sausage patties. You're just not really worried about it. They can go in there, do the job very well, like two somewhat experienced or inexperienced people could in one. 13, supervisory material. Correct. Now you're getting higher and higher. Your skills are getting better. You're able to get more out of them, so they'll be paid more as a result. 14 an hour. Never, ever late. Cares like the owner does. Brings positivity to the environment. Yes. One thing I will always see when I was working, like these hourly jobs, people always, they show up late, halfway doing the job. Like, they're just not really. One of the memes I saw kind of encapsulates this whole thing, where they're talking about 5 for 15, and it was a picture of a sausage bun or a hamburger bun with the cheese on the outside of the bun, not on the actual hamburger itself. Okay, when you're doing stuff like that, how are you going to demand more money? You're not giving me the productivity that would call for that kind of money. But hey, if you're never late, like second in command, you're doing an excellent job, why not get paid that money if that money is available to pay? And that's something else people talking about. Well, if you can't pay $15 an hour, if you can't pay a living wage, and you shouldn't be in business. So what you're saying is, to those that are saying it, not you guys that are, rocket scientists watching, not being sarcastic, but to the smart guys watching, guys and girls, this is not for you. But for those who think that you shouldn't be in business if you can't pay $15 an hour, well, you're talking to the people that are just regular, everyday normies like you and I, who don't have endless amounts of money to be able to pay. The average restaurant's profit margin is 4%. 4%. And that's good. Some restaurants do not make money. So if they're paying servers whatever the wage is, and you want to double that, triple that, quadruple that, how are they going to afford to pay that and still stay in business? But a Walmart, Target, Amazon, etc., they can do that. They'll advocate for a higher minimum wage on the federal level because they know that if their competition must pay a higher minimum wage, they'll go out of business because they don't have no money. They don't have that big bank. Big bank take little bank. Little small mom and pop shops, little small hardware stores, small restaurants, small hair salons, they'll all go out of business. Walmart will take that business and be able to generate more money because they're getting more foot traffic due to all the closed businesses. That's how that works. They can afford to lose $1 billion in a year because they'll end up making more after the smoke clears. 15 an hour outshines and outperforms the owner, does all the above. So yeah, when you're getting paid the most, you're the best of the best. That's how that works. So if anybody's triggered or offended at this sign, I would say two things. Get better, tighten up. That's one thing right there. Get better and tighten up. And also just stop being soft. Stop being this is the way the world works. This is just how it is. All over the world, especially here in the States. We have capitalism. They're trying to change it into communism, socialism, crony capitalism, stuff like that. But that's a different story. I digress. The whole thing is, hey, what do you bring to the table? What can you do? There was a point in time in America, as I close, where we had things called inventors. People would go out there and just make things. They would create things. They would innovate. They would create. They would identify a need or a potential need that exists that's not being addressed properly, and then they will find a way to solve that need. They would create a thing to solve the need. Okay, you want to read at night? Okay, how about I invent a light bulb? You want to be able to get from point A to point B very quickly? Okay, we got the automobile, we got the airplane. I mean, we need that kind of thought process to return rather than it being, what can the government do for me? What can these big corporations give me? How about giving something to the country, giving something to the world? Whatever happened to that? This entitlement culture of the high minimum wage and things like that will only result in less prosperity for people. Go to California, they already got the high minimum wage, $15 an hour. But yet, that's not enough to even really live. Now they're trying to say, oh, it's got to be $24 an hour, $28 an hour. Where does it end? And then people who are making decent livings from having skill, from going to college, paying a bunch of money, working their fingers to the bone, spending years of their life getting to a place, are they going to get a wage increase? No, they won't. They'll still stay the same. So the floor will just rise and everybody will kind of end up in the same place, except for the politicals and whatnot. They talk about equality, fight for 15, but they give themselves a raise. I think I just saw recently where Congress get themselves a raise, but did you get one from the federales? No. If you're an employer, they want to make you make less money by paying your employees more, which may mean you go out of business. But hey, I guess maybe the politicals think the same way that some of these weirdo normies do, that if you can't afford to pay $1 trillion an hour in wages, you shouldn't be in business. It's crazy, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about the whole minimum wage argument? Does anyone deserve to get paid a particular wage? You guys know where I'm at when it comes to that. Nobody deserves anything. It's all about what you can bring to the table, what you have the leverage to negotiate. Deserve and feel, that's just emotional terms. That's all about your fees and your feelings. I don't operate that way. I have a nice box where my heart used to be. It's all about what can you bring to the table? How much do I think it's worth? How much can I afford? It's about facts, figures. 1 and 1 is 2. Nothing else, nothing more. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.